people in crypto are always like so jaded and they're thinking like, man, when is crypto gonna build something useful? It's like, yo, like me, you, and like basically all our friends, like most of our net worths are in this parallel financial system that the government does not have like read-write access to. And I think that alone is like beautiful. That alone is like a crazy statement. And if that's all we create, that is like worth all the dedication and money and time that we have spent on this, period.
Today's episode is brought to you by Trustless Media, pioneering the first way to bid, win, and trade ad space as NFTs in your favorite creators. You can bid now to unlock ads just like this in Coinage or other premium creators like The Rollup or Thinking Crypto at a 90% discount. Head to auction.trustless.media to bid on ads today and even get paid if you get outbid. All right, Anil Lulla, thank you so much for being here, man.
Of course, yeah.
Appreciate
thanks for having me. You
It's
guys are great.
This is an exciting one because you're known as, we were just chatting, a permabull of this.
Yes, that's true.
You like being on the optimistic side of things. So we're gonna dive into all of the reasons as to why people out there should be optimistic right now.
Awesome.
What has you most optimistic right now? And I guess just big learnings from you guys at Delphi Digital, because you're one of the smartest research arms out there. Obviously, you got the venture business as well. So we could take this really anywhere.
Super down, yeah.
But first off, thanks for being here, man.
Yeah, of course. Thanks for having me, guys.
Yeah, it's exciting. So I guess starters, I want to dive into your background coming from the TradFi world as well over at Bloomberg on the bond side of things. So talk to me about...
You did your research. I love it.
Well, you know, you got time out here. Talk to me about kind of the journey to get to where you are now.
Definitely, yeah. So my co-founders and I, we all started at, in TradFi. Worked at Bloomberg, worked at Deutsche Bank. Mostly did like corporate bond research at Bloomberg. Then moved to leverage finance side on the Deutsche Bank side. Honestly, when I was growing up, I thought finance and like investing was going to be what I do for the rest of my life in the TradFi world, right? And almost immediately, I kind of got like disillusioned and kind of got very kind of frustrated with kind of the corporate like world, right? At Bloomberg, like honestly, great company overall, met like some of my best friends there for sure. But I think very quickly I realized that like I was not judged by the merits of my ideas. I was just judged by like how long I'd been at the company. And like, I just didn't want to be there for like 3 decades to be taken seriously. So that immediately turned me off. Then, eventually when I joined Deutsche Bank, was super excited because doing leverage finance was like something that I thought was really interesting. But again, I think like 80% of the job was not interesting at all to me. It was like, politics with like old people and then like understanding like systems that like I would not transfer anywhere else.
Yeah.
And then 20% of the job was interesting, like actually understanding companies, their capital structures, like what their business model was and everything like that. But still, I just thought, man, is this like just going to be life forever? Like I've tried two things that I thought would be good jobs that I would like, past Anil would look back and be like, this is like exactly what you should be doing. And it just kind of got me really upset. And I think at that same time, seeing the inside of like a dying German bank, was very scary as far as like the trust people were placing in this bank. And, there were definitely smart people there, but there were also a lot of dumb people there. And I was just like, this is not, there it is, the first curse word, damn. I apologize for all the curse words already. But
it's casual. We're casual here. It's completely fine.
But I was just like, a little bit worried about just like, man, this is like what the financial system is built on. I don't trust it from the inside. I don't know how people are okay trusting it from the outside. And then obviously fell down the crypto rabbit hole. And, I think one of the reasons I'm so optimistic is like back then, this was in 2017, it was just very obvious about like the debt crisis, US printing all these dollars. It was just very obvious. A lot of these charts were up and to the right. And I always, I know people always say up and to the right. Like the one thing to say there is like every chart is to the right. So you could just say up, but whatever. But like I think the way that I thought about it is like, all right, this is up and to the right. I don't have to think about this anymore. What is the way that I can kind of like protect against this? And actually I felt like crypto was the only industry that I could work in that not only I could protect myself, but also help other people kind of like be aware of this. And so like you, me, a lot of our friends, I was, my co-founders and I were those annoying people in the room in 2017, 2018, 2019, 2020.
Yeah.
Just like yapping about like, guys, you should be paying attention to this. It's almost like that scene from Margin Call where they're like in the cab and they're like, man, these people have no idea what's going on.
Yeah.
And I think, right around COVID when, basically like 23 or whatever % of, the USD supply was printed in 1 year I think that was an inflection point when people really started to get it. So my sister, she's a doctor, for example. Now her and her friends in her circle who, they don't really, and they're super busy. I was going to say another curse word, but super busy, right? And so they obviously don't need to spend time thinking about this, but even them are aware of the debt crisis now, right? And aware of what's going on. They're aware of like the quote unquote use case of Bitcoin, whether or not they own it. So I think it's an amazing, like, we've kind of already won, and I think we've entered this boring stage of crypto where we just have to watch the score play out.
Yeah, it's a big evolution, and I would agree. I come from kind of the same camp. You said seeing a dying German bank. I come from the traditional media world, and similar kind of trajectory for that industry right now, I suppose. And being at Yahoo and CNBC back in 2018, pitching the idea of a crypto show basically got laughed out of the room. Like, this isn't a thing. It's not gonna be a thing. And it's like, all right, here we are. But I mean, in terms of that, it's interesting to now see like JP Morgan and the rest of them. I mean, you could throw BlackRock in that camp too. Talk about like at least Bitcoin and Ethereum as this debasement trade and everything you're talking about in terms of being diluted out there as more cash gets printed. But that's not real. I mean, I don't know. I don't know if you'd fall in the same camp too. It's like there's that, and then there's the rest of crypto. And I actually feel like the rest of crypto has actually changed more in the last 2 or 3 years than I would have thought, in terms of there used to be like real ethos around some of this stuff. And I don't know if we've lost that or not. You've been in the space longer than I have professionally.
Yeah.
What's your take on that?
Yeah, it's such a good question. I think like people on crypto Twitter, and I think crypto Twitter is a very useful place in many ways, but it's also become more toxic than it's ever been, for sure. I think people are very jaded, for sure, because like, and you can't blame people. A lot of people, and even some of my friends, right, or they see crypto as a way to make a quick buck and like make it. And, that's all they kind of treat it as. And I think the percentage of people, at least on crypto Twitter, that think about it that way has definitely gone up. But I think what crypto Twitter doesn't see is there's a buttload of people outside that are kind of like falling down this rabbit hole with the ethos that kind of got a lot of us interested in the first place. Now, I think, yes, maybe the way people see certain coins and narratives and trends has changed, but I think everything has kind of changed for the better. Like a lot of these coins or narratives that were being chased before actually shouldn't have been bid up as much as they got bid up.
Yep.
And now, it's so funny. Obviously, you see people with this like revenue meta and stuff. It's like, it's not a revenue. These are just businesses. Like this is just like, this is like what investing is. Like this is what you should be doing. And I think like, when we first got into the space, we were definitely, one of the first like fundamental research shops. And to be honest, when we first started, there was like nothing fundamental to really look at. But we were really excited. Obviously, on our consulting side, we helped, work with a lot of DeFi protocols very early on, like Synthetics. We were one of the first companies in the world to be paid by a DAO. Work with Aave, work with Lido, and so we were really excited about building these kind of fundamental token models that could become sustainable businesses. But obviously, back then, there were peanuts. And so you saw a lot of this money kind of chasing these narratives, chasing these beliefs, chasing these kind of dreams. Because like, if you did what revenue Aave was making back in 2020, like it was overvalued or something like that, right? And I think what's beautiful about what's happening now is now these are growing into businesses that are not just, impressive within the crypto ecosystem, but like, I talked to a bunch of friends who are in traditional VC and I tell them about something like a Hyperliquid or a pump. And they're like, oh, like it made how much this year? Oh, in 12 months. But no, that's just them printing their token, right? That's not real revenue. I was like, no, this is real hard cash.
Yeah.
They have this in the bank account. And it's just like, oh, then that's a very impressive business. Like they get it almost quicker than people in crypto get it sometimes.
Yeah, no,
which is so funny.
I think that is an interesting kind of blend of those things. And maybe some of it just kind of speaks to how quickly some of these funds move around. I mean, you can talk about Pump maybe we can dive into that one because I know you're an investor there. And like the idea of how quickly some money can move around in these projects, but then also, as we've seen, how quickly some of these projects can be replicated or copied. It is kind of an interesting thing to think about if money is so quick to move, like at the velocity of some of this stuff, and like if a lot of the customers of these platforms are there for airdrops or farming,
Yeah.
there's not a lot of brand loyalty, maybe, shall we say.
Yeah.
And like I think about like, you know, the Ubers and the Lyfts. How do you like look at that as an investor in some of these things?
In crypto, yeah, like
Because like Pump Dot Fun, and then there was Bonk Fun, and it was like,
Yeah.
well, they really flipped that pretty quick.
100%. I think it is very fluid for sure. And I think at the end of the day, obviously community is such a buzzword being thrown around with meme and everything. I think it is actually very important, but more important than that is actually just the core product and the team in and of itself, right?
Mm-hmm.
You saw the Pump team kind of come back, overtake that market share right back within, you know, days. Like once they actually rolled up their sleeves and focused on it. And they have way more up their sleeves, I think, always, right? They're always kind of scheming. They're always thinking about the next thing. And I think from my conversations with them, and yeah, full disclosure, I am like an angel investor, and just have, you know, bags of it too. So definitely very biased here. But I think like one thing that I've seen by talking to the team, working with the team, is that they are thinking way beyond crypto.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's this next era. And I think this is what you want to see. And I think Jeff from Hype is thinking about this the same exact way, right? Guy from Athena, another, you know, one of our investments that we're really close to. Same thing. They are working on building products that are not just for this niche that we're in. They're working on building products that, you know, people, external to our industry can benefit from.
Yeah.
And I think that's the beauty of it. And I think this is something that, you know, people should be really excited about, and be rooting for, you know, and you can go and buy these things. If you know, like there's no reason for you just because you don't own it to be rooting against it. You should be rooting for anything. And that's one thing that I think like, I'm definitely, you know, good at is, you know, for example, Aster recently. I didn't buy that at all. I was rooting for it. Why? Because I think this past cycle, what's happening, you were kind of touching on this earlier, is believers got punished. And I think what you need to see, it's like that roller coaster meme. You need the opposite to happen now. You need believers to be rewarded, and you need, you know, these mercenary traders to be punished.
Yeah.
And so something like an Aster where people got in, got a quick 5X, got out, and then they see it go up another 10, 20, 30X, whatever. Those are the best things that you can hope for in the space. Because then that, point. You know, and it'll help, you know,
because I feel like there are some of those real projects that kind of have been slept on. It was almost, and I don't know if this is still true in your eyes, but like it was almost, if you were a real project focused on just being a real business, focused on generating revenue or trying to do something different, you might be punished for that. Because it's like, well, now I'm just looking at your revenue numbers. I'm not thinking about how do we make money on this.
100%. Yeah, I'd say that like there's two ways to look at that. One, if you were a product focused on a specific narrative, and just the narrative, not actually building out a product and actually like having an impact on the space, then you're just going to be chasing narratives. And to be honest, it's probably easier for you too because you weren't building a real product. You know, it's really just like, you know, directing your marketing department to go, you know, catch up on what the next narrative is. But if you were heads down, focused on the product, and obviously people, you know, you can adapt your product, you can pivot your product. Pump was like an NFT finance protocol at first, right? And then they pivoted. It's very smart. And now they very leaned into the product. And by the way, I think one of the cool things about it is the way they're thinking about it is, you know, if you think about like Instagram or any of these social media platforms, these things aren't changing a lot. You know, obviously there's some new features, stories, whatever have you. But if you look at it 5 years ago, they made just iterative changes. And that's how they're thinking about it. Where, hey, this product is already working. We're not changing the whole thing. We found something that works. We're just going to lean into that and just keep iterating to make sure that these loops work really well.
Yeah, I want to stick with that too, though, because I don't know. Are you an investor in Zora too, or is that just something?
Some people at Delphi definitely are. I mean, I don't hold any right now. I'm a big fan of Jacob though.
Yeah, no, well, it's interesting to think about kind of the way that Pump and Zora. So we did an episode kind of looking at, back then Zora was just in content coins, so they hadn't launched creator coins yet. Now I feel like it's fair to say that Pump and Zora are like looking pretty similar in certain areas, and I don't know, the only differentiator really, and Zora is also, I think, moving over to the Solana space too. So it's like, what really differentiates these things at the end of the day? But it seems like a hot meta right now, creator capital markets.
Yeah.
And that seems to be the narrative du jour,
for
whether it's Pump or Zora.
Yeah.
I'm curious what that looks like to you.
Yeah. I think like it's a great market to go after, right? The world has changed a lot in the past decade. Nowadays, people don't have to be entrepreneurs. They themselves can be their own brands that are lifting themselves up. You guys are doing this right here with Coinage, right?
We certainly have our own ideas in terms of what creator capital markets
yeah,
can
exactly.
look like.
And I think like these creator, like, you know, I think out of these big FANG type companies that benefit a lot from the creators that are creating the content that is, you know, actually the product. The product is not just the tech behind it. It's actually the people creating the content, whether it's on TikTok, YouTube, whatever.
Exactly.
Obviously, YouTube's benefited a lot. And I think if you talk to any creator, they view YouTube as the friendliest and most quote unquote fair. And I know people probably have a problem with it as well.
Yep.
I think what's beautiful about things like Pump and Zora are, you know, and I think Dudas had this great tweet that I think is like the perfect way to think about it, where I think a lot of people are waiting for a Zora or a Pump to like onboard MrBeast or a Kai Cenat or an Aiden Ross.
Yeah.
And what Dudas tweeted was like, oh, like the game is not to get MrBeast, it's to make the next MrBeast.
Yeah.
And I think what's beautiful about these platforms is these platforms all have, you know, they're even though they're somewhat similar to maybe like a Twitch or a Kick or Zora's like an Instagram or something like that, they're different in their own way, shape, or form. They're also attracting a different audience. So the types of creators that they're gonna king make are gonna use those platforms in different ways than people are using YouTube and Twitter and whatever have you, right? And so, and every kind of like platform you see this happen, right? So YouTube, obviously you had like David Dubrovnik, or I'm totally butchering his name, or like MrBeast. Twitter, you had Naval, obviously. Like, you know, like Naval wouldn't have gone viral on YouTube, although now he does.
Sure.
But he went viral on Twitter, and vice versa. And I think like, you know, you're gonna get some creators that are all of a sudden who maybe couldn't have gone viral on YouTube, who are now gonna go viral on Pump, and then build audiences and be able to go viral elsewhere.
Yeah.
And I think that's like very, very powerful, right?
Well, I think, I mean, I bring it up mostly because there was a really good Delphi report on Zora kind of breaking down how it all works. Yeah, shout out to Jordan. And I don't know if you still want to let people who are watching this unlock that report.
Yeah, well, yeah, if anyone wants to read it, or any of our reports, we obviously have a subscription, but like...
The Coinage fam would be very pleased.
You guys DM me on Twitter, at Anil Delphi, and I'll share the Zora report or any of our recent reports just so you can read it. We were laughing though because you have this plaque of 100,000 subscribers, so
we'll see how many people...
my team's about to go through a lot of DMs.
Yeah, you gotta smash that like button to unlock the report.
Yeah, exactly.
But no, I mean, I think it's an interesting kind of chapter to be in too, because it's something that, like, you know, the co-founder of Netflix is one of our Coinage members as well.
Oh wow, awesome.
And you know, it's interesting to think about that. What you said is very true. Like the idea of building for not just the MrBeast of yesterday, but the next MrBeast is the same thing. He's like, look, I wouldn't build Netflix the same way today. I wouldn't start by sending DVDs in the mail but I also wouldn't build a centralized streaming platform now. It's like, how do I give ownership to people? And that's kind of what we're trying to do now. But I want to shift gears a little bit too into kind of why you're so bullish, and maybe it's that. It could be that you're bullish because just like how this technology is now getting implemented into normal, boring business models that just make it better, which is why I've always been interested in the space.
Yeah.
Or if it's more of the vein of, look, the institutions are finally here, so the BlackRocks of the world just putting this much money into it is a no-brainer. So I'm kind of curious where your level of bullishness... It's
never like black or white, right? So it's definitely a convergence of those answers. I'd say that like... Totally agree. I think the way you should think about crypto right now is like past decade or so, whatever. It was mostly primarily speculation driven, which is honestly, and you know, we can have a debate about this separately.
Markets are made.
Yeah, I think speculation is a great use case. It's very powerful, and I think, you know, broadening the access to being able to speculate to the masses is actually a good thing. And I think, you know, if you think about what speculation provides, like venture investing is very all about speculation too. You know, Uber, like all these Airbnb, etc. People had to speculate on this somehow becoming a thing for them to exist, and now your life is hopefully somewhat better because of it. So speculation is net good in my mind for sure. But I think where we're moving and what you're slowly seeing, to your point, you know, for a while, this institutions are coming was a meme. Ever since we started Delphi, it was always a meme. For the first time ever, and now no one talks about, funny enough, it's no longer a meme. It's not future tense anymore. They are here, and like no one can debate that they are here.
Yeah.
Right? So I think what's happening is you're seeing crypto move from this primarily speculation use case to more so around other use cases like savings. Savings is a big one, right? And by the way, obviously, huge year for stable coins. Everyone and their moms is talking about stable coins.
Yeah, really left that part off.
Right.
I guess there's a third tier for where your bullishness could come from.
And by the way, the stable coins are one part of savings, I think, in my mind. I think there's, again, the way I see it is like we have entered this boring stage of crypto and it's decided, we've won, period. And now we just have to see where the score settles. And I think stable coins are a big part of this story, but more than that, I think like there's other ways that people are going to be saving money on chain or on crypto rails. For example, you just saw Robinhood launch this like L2 with Arbitrum, for example, right? Kraken's launching X stocks. You have a bunch of other projects and teams working on bringing basically global market liquidity to private markets. So now all of a sudden, you don't have to wait to buy someone's or the investors or the bankers' bags at IPO. The IPO is becoming less relevant because of crypto rails.
Yes.
And all of a sudden, me can own OpenAI or SpaceX stock before. And I think like this is another version of savings. There's a lot of people out there. When I was a kid, I remember watching the Steve Jobs present the iPhone. And I was like, oh, that's really cool. And my dad was like, oh, that's awesome. I'm going to buy some Apple stock. And I was like, oh, that's interesting. Like, I just want to buy the phone. And I think all of a sudden people are going to, I think investing is becoming way more mainstream. Like my sister is such a good signal for me here because, 5 years ago, her and her doctor friends, they were just laser focused on just becoming doctors, just medical school and everything like that.
A lot of doctors are that
way. They have to, right?
To
but now they have to think about this too. And it's not even have to think about this. It's like subtly being projected onto them via social media and all these things anyway. So investing is like now becoming quote unquote cool, but also like a necessary part of life.
I do want to double down on what you said around the post IPO world, because I almost feel like it's weird that people don't realize it yet, but I really do think we are beyond that like one liquidity unlock event. And we are seeing more projects kind of get this right in terms of letting people own pieces of things.
Yeah.
I do think, I don't know, and maybe we sit on different sides of this because you're in the VC game, I'm not. But like I feel like there was some fear around the idea of actually giving people real ownership. Like there had to be a token that was tied to something, and maybe there'd be a buy and burn. And so like you kind of hope, but you never know for sure. And no one ever promises anything that's real. Like, obviously that's changed a lot because now we have a new administration. So like you might be able to get away with just telling people the truth.
Yeah.
And not being so scared that Gary Gensler's going to sue you.
100%. Yeah, exactly.
Death. Which is kind of like why we set up things the way that we did as like a co-op and like trying to do things here legally in the US to give people memberships that then can unlock patronage dividends. And like that was kind of where I hoped this space would get.
Yeah.
But now I feel like, okay, there's no Gary Gensler boogeyman to prevent you from saying you can't do that stuff now. So I don't know. I mean, how do you kind of envision, because crypto is like, it's weird. It's like a what is it? Schadenfreude?
Yeah.
Schadenfreude. Where it is where like, you're like, okay, this is how it was always done. So this is the way we're going to do it forever. But how do you see like that being improved if we are in a world where you're not going to have a regulator, some like standard IPO process? Like, do you think that crypto is going to write those rules themselves, or what does that look like?
Yeah, I mean, that's always what attracted me to the space when I first got in, just kind of this potential for whole new business models. I think, in the beginning, at least for when we joined the space, people dreamed and they dreamed big. Yeah. There were a lot of token models that made no sense, but I just really enjoyed and loved the creativity of it, to be honest. I think over time we have kind of settled back, and obviously, some of the biggest coins this cycle are all about revenues, all about buy and burn, etc. I think those are very simple and those are great. And I think, again, they make a lot more sense now because these revenues are not to be scoffed at. Yeah. That being said, I do think, and again, like, we've obviously designed a lot of tokens on the consulting side. I this is the way I think about it. And, I could be totally wrong, but this is at least my hope is, I think right now, well, when you're designing a token, especially in this niche market, you have to design for the mercenaries, unfortunately, because anything that can be like extracted will be extracted. Yeah. And I'm hoping with us going from speculation to savings, you like 100,000, 10,000x the user base, and you ideally get a much more, comfortable mix of users, not just all mercenaries. Yeah. And by the way, you still have to design for mercenaries because even if there's one mercenary, they can use like leverage to like full extract, max extract, whatever. That being said, I do think there are interesting and useful, creative ways that you can use a token in communities that like, have users that are just there for the actual product or the actual utility. Not just buy and burn, right?
Yeah, it's reassuring to hear you say that because, like, I don't know. Sometimes
that's my hope,
like,
at least. By the way, I could be totally wrong.
Well, speculation versus savings is a very interesting way to look at it because even in traditional markets, there are people who are traders and there are people who are like more Warren Buffett investment types who will just buy and hold for a really long time.
Yeah.
And like, there's not a lot other than Bitcoin really that I think you could point to. Maybe Ethereum now, maybe Solana, where it's like, yeah, just hold it and forget about it. But like some of crypto, most of crypto might not fall into that bucket.
Yeah, yeah.
And so I don't know. I've at times thought I was crazy for building something like that because it's like, who the fuck cares about dividends if I can like 10x my money and then bounce the next day? And
yeah,
it's like,
absolutely. It sets a ceiling, right? That being said, I do think, and I'm very hopeful. Obviously, the majors, Bitcoin, ETH, and Sol, are ones that a lot of communities and a lot of people do feel comfortable holding. Obviously, Bitcoin being the king. I do think there is a world where a lot of the assets that people are excited about and talking about right now could be like this, and I don't know what you want to call them, like the Mag 7 of crypto, things that are actually sustainable businesses that you could own for multiple cycles and not just be a trade for you. That's the hope. And maybe it takes more time.
Aave would be in that bucket.
Aave is absolutely destroying it. We work with them very early on for a very long time.
Yeah.
Very good friends with Stani and
Stani, great dude.
Yeah, great dude. And they've just done like Vitalik just had this great post on like the risk, like low risk DeFi, right? Yep. And he was basically hinting to Aave the whole time. And I think that's just such it is something that I think people in crypto are always like so jaded and they're thinking like, man, when is crypto going to build something useful? It's like, yo, like me, you, and like basically all our friends, like most of our net worths are in this parallel financial system that the government does not have like read-write access to.
Yeah.
And I think that alone is like beautiful. That alone is like a crazy statement. And if that's all we create, that is like worth all the dedication and money and time that we have spent on this.
Yeah.
Period.
That is a big thing.
Right? And do I think that is where we're going to stop? No. Like, no, I'll use the second one there. So
I think we're up to 3.
Yeah. I thought that was 2.
It's one for me too, though. So
really? All right. We're
a
at
good
3
host
then.
has to count for us both.
Yeah. We got to look up the YouTube. We can bleep these afterwards. Yeah.
But no, I think in general, obviously there's a lot of reasons to be bullish. I think the journalist in me always takes the other side for some of these things as we look forward.
Mm-hmm.
But in order to look forward, dare I say, we might need to look back. So I do wonder if there are any things in your past, and we might share one, certainly, in terms of mistakes along the way, learnings along the way for you.
I mean, honestly, when you're building anything, you're going to make a ton of mistakes. If anything, the vision I have for Delphi is for us to, keep failing and fail fast. Honestly, you kind of fail upwards into success. There's no success that does not include failure. There's obviously a ton. Obviously for our Delphi Labs, our incubation, we built these 2 projects, Mars and Astroport, on Terra, right? And those 2 projects, we sunk not just a lot of money in, but a lot of time and energy of people who are very kind of sophisticated and like really strong team that could have been building elsewhere, et cetera. And I think that was like, a huge amount of learnings from that. Now our incubation team has gone on to, contribute to a bunch of new projects, but like 2 of which that are pretty well known are like Resolve, the Delta neutral stablecoin, as well as Legion, which is a merit-based ICO, which obviously just had this huge like yield-based sale, which was like 100x oversubscribed, $200 million in like 48 hours. It was nuts. And that team is like second to none. And I think the cool part about it is these ideas have all come from our learnings and not even just the mistakes, but also the gaps that we've seen in the market while we've been doing everything else. So obviously for the, those tuning in that don't know, but Delphi has 3 main companies, right? Research, where we also do consulting out of, Ventures, which is like primarily our prop capital venture fund, and then Labs, our incubation arm. And I think like the cool part about it is it gives us this very unique seat in crypto where combined, we refer to it as the Delphi hive mind, but we have this like analytical perspective via research and consulting. We have the builder's mindset via Labs, and then obviously the investor's mindset via Ventures.
Yeah.
Seeing that also is probably why I'm always a permeable. There's just always something going on. Like, on the research side and consulting side, we're always talking to people at like BlackRock, Goldman, but also a lot of these big projects, right? Like we're working with Plasma for a while, and just like, rolling up your sleeves and actually working with these teams, you just see like the amount of dedication. Like when I worked at Bloomberg and Deutsche Bank, I went to some conferences for like finance and stuff. The amount of like these conferences are not fun, and they're not like the amount of energy. No one's happy to be there. They're happy for the drinks afterwards and stuff like that, right? In crypto, people are actually fired up about what they do day to day. That is like
even at the side events, they might not be there for the conference.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, of course. There's definitely a big party culture, etc. Right? But like, people are actually fired up about their jobs and like are dedicating night and day. Like, the Plasma team was amazing. That they're in London. We're like a 24/7 team too, right? We're terminally online, which sometimes may not be good.
Yeah.
No matter what hour of the day we were messaging them, awake, ready to go, bullish.
Yeah.
That's not, traditional teams are probably not doing that. Most at least aren't. That alone is awesome to see. Also, obviously, just like we're going into BlackRock to do these presentations way before they did all these ETFs and everything like that. And just by doing those every month, we could see the first time we went in, 2 people in a room. And we had more people presenting on our side, it was me and the rest of the founders, than people attending.
Yeah.
And then by the end of it, we had a filled room and like 150 people like dialed in on a call. So you could see like, those are signs that I think people are not privy to on crypto Twitter and stuff, but that's like a side that we see and it's like, oh wait, like people are totally missing this.
I think that there's a lot there in terms of, I mean, I haven't thought about Mars or Astroport in a really long time. That one goes back to
pour some out. Yeah.
Dude, for real. I mean, like going back to the Terra days too, I think there are obviously a lot of learnings there, but it brings me back to kind of the ethos question, right? In terms of like, I'm curious to get your take on like what that was like, because for me too, and like a lot of our members, Donku being one,
nice.
who kind of got us a setup.
Donku.
To be honest, Donku is the way that like our validator arm came in, and now Coinage runs chains that like.
Awesome. I didn't even know that.
Yeah,
that's awesome.
We split the commissions, but 50% of the commissions from our validator arm goes into the DAO, and that helps us.
Amazing. Yeah. Wow.
So shout out to Donku, because we wouldn't be here without him. But like in that collapse, it was pretty wild to think about, and I don't know what that was like for you, but for me personally, like just kind of sitting through that, and I know for Donku as well, for a lot of people. And I just got back from Korea, where SY was like, we don't talk about that, but I'm like, even here we talk about FTX, we talk about SAM, you have to talk about these things.
Yeah,
like,
of
how
course.
else do we assess these things?
100%. Yeah.
So I don't know if there's any learnings in that moment or what it was even like for you, but it is at least, I think, fair to say that like Doe always said, like a decentralized economy needs decentralized money. I think Athena, I guess, is another.
Damn, I love that you brought it up. I was going to bring that up. Yeah.
Trying to get at that.
Yes, exactly.
So I don't know. I mean, there is something to be said about like what is the real mission here.
Yeah, exactly. And by the way, we wrote, actually myself and the founders, after, obviously building out the team and everything, it was the first report that we had all sat down and wrote together, which was like learnings from last week, which was like, we published the week after the whole Terra collapse. Highly recommend people, you can go, it's all free. It's not like behind a paywall or anything.
Yeah.
So we talked about it a lot. I think, funny that you say Athena, because like the cool thing about the learnings, the funny part about the Terra thing is like, we still believe in that thesis. We believed in it afterwards too. Obviously it was like not executed in the right way, but we thought it was super important, and we still think it's important.
I mean, after the USDC DPEG was like another example.
Yeah, thank you. I absolutely. And I think, there's still a lot of risk as far as like potential for some of these becoming CBDCs. And like, I think, you need teams that are fighting against that. And I think that's why, funny enough, why we, went in with size with Athena was like, that was very similar. It was like another shot at that thesis, right? And again, I don't want to call Athena directly a stablecoin because it's like a delta neutral like derivative, right? But I think that is like decentralized money that people can use and are already using via their integrations with not just like the BlackRock like build fund and everything like that, but also with integrations with sexes like Binance and Bybit and stuff.
Yeah.
So I think Guy is just like one of the best, if not the best founder in crypto right now. And I think it's funny that you bring it up is like, I think when you do, like when you make a mistake, you got to figure out from first principles where the mistake was and then what was wrong. Was the thesis wrong or was the execution wrong? And it may be somewhere in between that. For us, even afterwards, and again, would love for people to go read that post. Like the thesis, I don't think was wrong. Like, and that's why we've leaned very heavily into Athena and has worked out well for us. But I think it's a good story for other people to think about too. And I think it is something that, like, when you ask about ethos, it's something that I think, yes, a lot of people have lost the way, but I do think there are a lot of teams in crypto who are heads down, focused on that. And I think you're seeing it right now, even just this past week. Like, again, I don't own any Zcash or anything, but like, privacy is coming back in a big way. And that is a big part of crypto ethos. And I think, like, when you talk to people who are, like Paradigm and those guys working on like Tempo or anything like that, I think a lot of these chains will, by their very nature, the funny thing is privacy is not just in demand from consumers, it's in demand by institutions. So, it's a way for us to make the technology better and more useful for people that we want to onboard, while also, building it in a way that sticks true to these ethos that we've, came into the space for.
I think it's a very interesting question too, because I was also at the Roman Storm trial covering that. And it's like another one where it's like, that was weird because you have Vitalik and everyone else coming out and being like, yo, free Roman Storm. And it was like, okay, sure, privacy is definitely like a big thing. And so I don't know, it's kind of interesting to pair that with some of the other trials in the past as well, and where we are now, and like what like the space really wants to defend and like chase. And it is certain that, like, okay, how do you square Roman Storm with like where privacy goes? Because like, I don't know. It's a very interesting thing. Because like, even, I don't know if you read like the White House like crypto report, even there it was like, hey, we got to respect FinCEN. And it was like, interesting. So like, even as pro crypto, as the government may appear, it's like the line's going to be drawn somewhere. And I feel like it's one of the interesting stories.
Yeah, for sure. So, our GC, Sarah Brennan, she's been, spending so much time in DC, fighting the good fight. And I think, she's doing it alongside a lot of other, GCs and lawyers across the industry. I think there's still a lot of learnings going on. I think this administration is being super productive with those conversations, but obviously it's going to take time. I think the biggest thing that we can hope for right now is just two things, really. One, the people who are fighting the good fight on the front line, educating as much as possible and steering this in the right direction, and hopefully steering them away from things that would hurt the industry, which I don't think the industry has any focus on trying to do. And I think while we have this time, and you're seeing the industry kind of speed run right now on like almost, shaking off the PTSD of this like anti-crypto government and regulators stance, and building useful stuff like, building products and things that actually, ideally impact the world in a positive way and ideally provide value to the people who use them. And I think like making it undeniable that crypto is here, not just to stay, but here to like, improve the well-being of people's both outcomes in a lot of ways, right?
That's let's take it in that direction too, though, because I know as all kind of like investment firms are interested in this AI right now, I feel like, I don't know if you've had a moment where it's like, this is going fast, and like, what is this going to mean for humanity? But I've had a few of those moments just like in the last month. But to your point on like where crypto can help, I feel like that is an important piece of like, okay, how can we use blockchain to prevent doomsday scenarios around that? It was here in New York that like, I think it was Coinbase and like Give Directly that's trying out USDC payments for like universal basic income. And I don't know, how do you envision like that going? Because to me, I feel like it's the one thing that can be used is like giving people ownership over some things. I'm pretty sure that's why like Story is so hot, they say.
Is this like, a planted question? Do you know about what we're doing with like Delphi Intelligence? This is the hat I gave you, actually.
Is that it?
Yeah. So here, let me. So I can talk about this for a while. I didn't even know we were going to go down this rabbit hole, but I think it's very worthwhile going. So just for some context for the listeners or viewers, is like our team got very deep into this crypto AI intersection 2 years ago. And I think to your point, I think crypto is all about abundance. And I think, AI is all about abundance. And I think crypto is all about scarcity. So at the very core, I think these two things will pair very well together. I think as we got deeper in that space, one thing that we realized were like, a lot of our team and, us in general, we were just nerd sniped by AI, and there's just a lot of exciting things here. And at the same time, I think crypto is going to benefit tremendously. But this convergence is going to take time, and these two things need to like figure out themselves and have a lot of white space to grow, individually. In the meantime, as we kind of grew our network, and that's, two ways to learn for Delphi at least is, do the research ourselves and build out a team. And the other side is building out a network, right? So as we kind of grew out our network, one thing that we realized when we talked to a lot of people who were kind of deep in the AI world were just like any other industries, like NFTs and creators and people in LA last cycle, they just hated people in crypto. they just hated crypto, right? And we thought that crypto was going to be at a disadvantage if you didn't have a team that was very deep in crypto that went and got just as deep in AI to bridge that gap. And basically, we viewed it as a duty, and also because we were super excited, right? We also obviously see a lot of value being able to like be created there. So we basically built out this team, Delphi Intelligence, on the hat. There's a hat I gave you.
Yeah.
In China and SF, and essentially we started this research platform, DelphiIntelligence.io. All free research, not like a subscription or anything. People can go read a bunch of this research that we put out to hold ourselves accountable to learn and build a brand in that space, as well as start building a network that we're already doing. And I think, the way that I see it is I think one of the biggest beneficiaries of crypto rails in the next 24 to 48 months is actually not even going to be, I think crypto assets will go up. Like I'm obviously permabull, I'm super bullish, but I think one of the biggest beneficiaries is actually going to be private companies in the AI, robotics, like deep tech, frontier tech kind of world.
Yeah.
Mostly because, you see it already with like Robinhood, Kraken and all this stuff. We were just talking about the IPO becoming less and less relevant. You're actually going to see a lot of these, private market companies get global access to global market liquidity without needing an IPO.
Yeah.
And I think right now, with platforms like Hive or just like by doing SPVs and stuff, there's a door to get into these companies, and the amount of people who will do that stuff is, it's not nothing, but it's like nothing crazy to write home about. But I think what's going to happen is the door's about to get just a little bit wider, but the amount of people that can come in through that door is going to 10,000x.
Yeah, I mean, I just feel like it's one of those things where to pair what you said around privacy and like the idea of the Mark Zuckerbergs of the world owning everything or your data, it's like that's actually kind of one of the cool pieces of like thinking about how blockchains could be used to maintain ownership over some of this stuff.
Yeah,
and have it so where you don't have some super powerful company, basically becoming the AI overlords. I don't know if you've thought about.
Well, have you downloaded Sora yet?
Yes.
Yeah. So, I mean, amazing attempt at OpenAI. I think they just created a whole new social network, by the way. Like the Cameo feature is like such a good feature because like it incentivizes you to add people.
Cameo feature.
Incentivizes you to add your friends, which is like, like Chamath at Facebook obviously built that whole like virality engine. They have that part like figured out. And then like people just love using it right now, right? But it's already pretty good. Not bad, but in 6-12 months, it's going to be disgustingly good.
Yeah.
Something like that is you're hopefully going to need crypto rails to really prove what is fake, what is real, what is AI, right? And you need that verifiability, and you can't let that verifiability being changed. So that is like, I think, a use case that I know a lot of people like, I know Story Protocol. I'm not honestly very close or dialed into Story, to be honest.
Yeah.
I know what I don't know. But I think that's a huge problem set that someone is going to try and solve.
I mean, I think, well, it didn't start out that way, but it's kind of evolved into that for us. So, I mean, in terms of like the idea of, and I think you were into music NFTs.
Yeah.
And like, same thing for me. I like Blau and what he did at Royal, like it was kind of like predating what we did here for video creators, because songs are completed work. So that was like kind of the way that like a lot of music NFTs were chill from a securities perspective to share royalties, because in the SEC's eyes, it's done. But like for us, and the idea of tokenizing creators, like I see, it wasn't important when we started this startup, but like it's become extremely important now, because like who's to stop if like you can create a movie with a prompt? Who's to stop that? And like what's going to matter to me if you extrapolate it at the end of the day? It's like the last thing that'll matter is like an artist and that connection with their fans, or vice versa.
Yes.
And like the only way to maintain that then is to let them own a piece. Like Pitbull, it was a weird interview.
Yeah.
But I interviewed Pitbull one time.
No
and
way.
He was
really?
like, money doesn't buy happiness. You just got to give it away. And I was like, that's a deep quote. I was like, what do you mean you got to give it away? He's like, that's like the best part for me as an artist, is like giving a little bit of myself to my fans. And it may have sounded corny, but I think that's true. Like,
no,
I
for
think
sure.
that's a thing.
I think like, by the way, don't put me on the spot like that and say I was bullish music NFTs. I
the
actually
permabull stumbles.
I was very vocal that I hated that version of NFTs. What I was, and I still am bullish on actually, is you know, that version of NFTs. And by the way, I am an angel investor in Royal just because like Justin's a good fan of my, a good friend of mine. But I do think that version was never that interesting to me, of like letting people capture the upside of like a song or anything like that. The artists themselves will tell you like they make peanuts off this. So like you will pay a huge amount for this NFT, and unlike you guys who have like your dividend like paid for the first, you know, batch of these NFTs price already, like you're gonna pay $1,000 for like a song for Diplo, and then like he's gonna pay you like 3 cents, and you're like, wait a minute, this math doesn't make sense. Dump, right? And what I always thought was interesting, and I think this is what you were kind of hinting at too, is actually like in music, in like creators in general, there's this 1% part of the community that is like your super fan.
Yes.
And that is like where you not like monetize, because it's not even like monetizing them. It's really just like connecting them and empowering them to support their creator more. So for example, I'm a huge fan of like, you know, Donald Glover and like Tame Impala and stuff. Like, I don't even create music, but like I bought like this instrument that Kevin Parker made. I don't even know if I'm going to use it. I just wanted to support the guy. Right. That's it. It's like people buying shirts and stuff, wearing that around. These are the types of things that I think will proliferate way more. I don't care if I'm getting, you know, 1% or 0.1% of like the less I know, the better's royalties. Like I don't want to be an investor in the song. I want to be a supporter of my artist.
Yeah. No, I mean, I think that's the way. By the way, shout out to the Coinage fam too, because we wouldn't be here without them. Like that is kind of the blending of like a Kickstarter plus a Patreon plus the dividends on chain piece that I think kind of creates a quote unquote tokenized creator offering, which is kind of like what we've done.
Love that.
And so it's been really cool. But I think at the heart of it is like, I don't know, it's weird, man. It's weird to see. At the heart of it, it's like everyone was all worried about AI coming for like manufacturing jobs, but it's like really the creators who are getting attacked first. It's like things like that.
I don't think so.
Workers. You don't think so?
I don't think so. I think the best creators will leverage it.
Agreed.
You can't run away from it.
Things. It's going to change the creative process.
Yeah, of course. I think if you're a creator, you're already a creative. And I think like this is the most powerful tool you've ever been handed since Fire.
Agreed. No, definitely agree with that for sure. I think that it's like the idea, like you said, is like what's real. And then people are going to be very confused. Like you remember the Drake song where it was like Winter's Cold? It was like an AI track that happened like 2 years ago, and everyone's like, "Uh-oh,
yeah.
Drake got replaced," and like
there's
Universal
the whole
was
beef
mad.
or whatever, right?
Yeah, and Universal was mad. It was a very weird thing to watch, but things like that, I think, are just like, okay, we're in a new world now. So I feel like there's a lot that crypto can change there. But to kind of like get to the final chapter, which is everything that you've learned in your journey since starting Delphi, now in this next wave, I mean, other than Athena, which you shouted out, Guy, and he was on the show. I thought he was building something really, really cool too.
Oh, really? Nice. Yeah, Guy's a beast.
Good dude. Good guy. But what are you most excited about now? Like where is Delphi's focus other than AI?
Yeah, I guess obviously there's a more crypto focused show. Honestly, we do have, there are some cool like incubations on the lab side. Like I'll shout out Oro. They're basically in stealth, so I don't know how much I can say, but they do have a Twitter, so I would go follow those guys. There's also, I think AI
Oro is what you said?
Oro, O-R-O. Yeah.
Write it down.
We co-led their recent round with A16Z. I think they're gonna cook. We just talked about them. We just had our team retreat last week, so had a lot of fun. I think obviously Perpdex is a huge meta right now. I think Hyperliquid is still the king. Obviously people are really excited about Lighter. I haven't had the pleasure of meeting that team, but I have a lot of friends who were angel investors who just say nothing but good things. Obviously they're biased, but I do think like I believe in my friends, right? And I was surprised at how many people shouted them out earlier this week when they were announcing their whole points and everything like that. Perpdexes are such a good product for crypto. Obviously, they have like one of the best product market fits of all time. You also, with your points program, can be very focused, so you can reward the community like very directly. And then the best part about it is a big portion of what you reward ends up cycling back into your product. So it's like a very, I don't think that meta is like going anywhere, and I think it's one to watch for sure. Obviously, prediction markets is something that people talk about a lot, and I think that race has heated up a lot in the past few months. Shout out John Wang at Kalashi. He kind of came in, kind of like turbocharged those guys. Whereas like, I think obviously Polymarket has been seen as a more crypto native one. I do think all these products are going towards the same thing. And the last one I'll shout out there is obviously like your pumped up funds, Zoros and stuff like that. Obviously, Pump is the one that I am betting on in a big way. I think like all these things are running towards the same goal, which is like the everything exchange, right?
Well, the weird thing is we didn't really talk about Coinbase or
Coinbase, Robinhood,
like
and X. I think X is actually such a big sleeper candidate here.
Yeah,
obviously, like I think a lot of people within X, I'm sure, are crypto sniped, and I think it is a matter of if not, it's a matter of when, not if, when Elon wakes up and says, hey, this is how I'm gonna monetize X more. And you know, Elon's not the type of CEO where he's like, he decides and then it's like 2028, we'll do this. It's like, oh, 6 weeks, we're doing this.
Yeah.
So I think that's going to be a big sleeper candidate. People just are not pricing in. That's the best part. Everyone on Twitter is always pricing in all the bearish news that's coming out. No one can like surprise to the upside. No one is like guessing about the surprises, right? So like, I think you have a lot of surprises near term, whether it's like ETF flows, right? Like, that ETF flows is an insane passive bid to crypto.
Yeah. I mean, and we haven't even gotten the Solana one yet.
And I'm not even saying ETF flows. Sorry, I misquoted, but like IRA, like retirement, 401k flows. That's what I meant. Sorry. And then the other thing is like also, you know, MicroStrategy. If that's added to, you know, the S&P 500, that's also a passive bid that will just like, you know, that bid will translate to a bid on Bitcoin, which helps the broader market. Those are the types of things that I think is like massive. Yeah.
Right. No, we had the Mooch on talking about that too, in terms of like a Morgan Stanley event where it was like, raise your hand if you're even allocated, and like still.
Yeah, somehow, exactly. And the passive flows are way more like, the passive flows are like insane compared to the active flows. Like, and people in crypto don't realize that, but like most of the investing in the world is just passive. It's just happening in the background. You made a decision, I will allocate X amount to 401k. This is what it's allocated to, whatever. You don't think about it again for 20, 30 years. Yeah. That is an insane bid. Yeah. That's coming.
I think one of the other, it's funny that we talk about, we're closing here on crypto Twitter, but I feel like one of the other show notes I got in terms of things that you might have wanted to talk about was like staying off crypto Twitter, which is also true. That's just generally true.
Yeah, it's not even just crypto Twitter. Obviously, it's like social media. So like think about it this way. You and I, we can go out for lunch, we can get a salad. We can control our like, you know, health diet, food diet very well by now.
Yep.
Unfortunately, you know, and by the way, again, Twitter has immense value. Like every day I will still scroll Twitter and, you know, I'll get 1, 2, maybe 5 nuggets of like awesome tweets, awesome information, awesome things to think about, etc. But to get those 5 pieces of information, you know how many chicken nuggets and fries I'm eating? You know, like the information that is so hard.
And you gotta see some things you can't unsee.
Yeah, and that's one thing, you know, I was hanging out with Jacob from Zora probably like 2 months ago at this point at their office. And we had this great conversation about it because I do think Zora is like trying to solve for that in a very interesting way. He has this great quote. It's escaping who said it, but it's basically like all information wants to be like free and expensive.
Yeah.
Right. And I think like Zora is really trying to like, you know, taking on an ambitious goal to solve that. Now, you know, back to what I was saying about these everything exchanges. I think all of these guys are racing towards the same thing. Mm-hmm. And from all different angles. Prediction markets are doing it from their angle. Pumped Out Fund is doing it from the very degen angle.
Is the end result just tokenizing everything?
Basically, right? And I think that's why like I am bullish on Pump. They seem to have, you know, already fit like, and this is not apples to apples. So, you know, hopefully this doesn't go viral and people are like, oh, this guy is like thinking about it the wrong way. But this is like a broad way to think about it is like Pump actually has prediction markets built into its platform. So for example, if, you know, JD Vance becomes like president or, you know, ends up, you know, becoming president or becomes big part of the news or something. Yeah. The odds of that on Polymarket or something may already be priced 10, 20, 30%, whatever. So maybe you can get a 5X, right? Maybe a 3X. Yeah. Otherwise on Pump, you can buy Please and maybe Please goes up 10, 20, 30X, right? Yeah. But like, obviously it's not apples to apples because like, you know, there's many coins on Pump. So like, for example, like one of my friends, he bought like the strategic SBR on, I think Solana or something, right? Solana. And he had a great thesis. He's like, when SBR is announced, this meme coin is going to rip. And I was like, I love your investing style, man. Have fun with this.
It's like logical.
And then you know what happened? SBR got announced. SBR did rip, but not the Solana SBR, the Ethereum SBR. Yeah. So he's like, damn, man, my thesis is right, but I executed the wrong one, right? Yeah. So there's obviously like bad things, and obviously I think leverage is going to come to prediction markets in a big way, whether it's through like the next edition of prediction markets or via the existing one. So it's not apples to apples, but I do think like that's a cool way to think about how I think about Pump now is like they actually have a product that like, satisfies a lot of the speculation bid in other cases.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think it is interesting to think about the way that all of this does fit together in terms of like, okay, everything's getting tokenized and there's value in like all of these things, like attention. I don't know, we just launched a tool that lets people buy ads basically as a creator bond. So like meme coins are one way to...
Cool. Yeah, you guys are crushing it.
We're trying to do some things out, man.
I think this is the only way you can do it. I think that's the one thing I would urge a lot of people who are like listening in and stuff. It's like, don't just buy and trade these things, become users.
Yeah.
Right? And we've been thinking on, the Delphi side, how do we use Zora? How do we use Pump? Like all this stuff, right?
That's why we've injected ourselves in and like, that's
love
why
that.
we got the
yeah,
creator
you
coin.
got, if we're not doing, Laurishin just announced, and like shout out Laurishin. I think she's like been such a shepherd of the industry for so long. And she just like, launched her stream on Pump, and she got so much like backlash for it. I literally reached out to her privately, and I was just like, Laura, like keep it up. Like this is exactly what you should be doing. I'm like proud and happy that you are trying to test this out.
Same.
Right?
I mean, well, and I would say I don't have anything in Pump, but I also said the same thing. I was like, hey, look, let people experiment.
Yeah.
Let them try. And there's nothing wrong. The other thing that like dawned on me, because we were also similarly like kind of touchy about that too, is just like, no one's forcing anyone to buy any of these things.
Yeah.
Maybe you go a little far if you like promise.
She communicated
things,
it so well
great.
too, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, like you can't really be mad at that stuff.
You can't. But the space is on edge, and I think it's on edge because they've been eating chicken nuggets for like the whole,
Yeah,
if you're permanently on and eating chicken nuggets.
Yeah, exactly. Take a break, touch grass, hang out with your family and stuff.
Exactly. It's a good place to end on. But no, I can't thank you enough for coming out here, man.
Thank you so much. It was great. Yeah, it's a lot of
and
fun.
Obviously, shout out to all the stuff that Delphi is doing.
Appreciate it. You guys too.
Yeah, well, thank you.
Yeah, and of course, any of your subscribers, just slide in my DMs. I will be probably slow to respond, but I will eventually respond and give you guys free reports so you can, see the content. Hopefully makes you smarter, maybe make you dumber, honestly. Who knows? Yeah, you just let me know. Give us feedback.
I don't know if that'll be the case. It's very good stuff from what I've seen. I appreciate it, man. The kingmaker at Delphi, Anil Lulla. Thank you so much, man.
Appreciate it. Thank you so much, man.
Right on.